All set, all right, I think so. Oh, it's 6:30, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is review and approval of the minutes from the prior meeting. If anybody has any additions or corrections, if they'd be kind enough to share it. Otherwise, I'd look for an approval of the minutes, please.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That will take care of our minutes. We've got 4 public hearings tonight. The first is a Buckingham conditional use permit for a twin home.
All right, so just up on the screen, I've brought up this site on the GIS so we can all take a closer look at it as we discuss it here tonight. So last month, I just want to recap what happened at the last meeting. We had an application for a minor subdivision, which was in order to change the layout of this property here. It was originally platted as 2 different lots, with the property line running north to south right down the middle. And now, because of this proposed development for a twin home, it was necessary to change the lot line orientation so it runs east-west, kind of down the middle there. So with the minor subdivision, we had the Planning Commission recommend approval of that one to the City Council with a couple of conditions there. One of them being that the applicant would have to apply for a conditional use permit because a conditional use permit is required for twin homes within the R1 single-family residential area. So that's what we have before us tonight, which is the application for a conditional use permit. So as I mentioned, it's required for twin homes in the R1 single-family residential area. And a twin home, you might think of it like a duplex, but as we discussed at our last meeting, there is an important distinction to make, and that is that the property line runs right down the middle of the 2 units, whereas with a duplex, you have 2 units all on the same lot. So that's the key difference. Let's see, so I can go through another one of the exhibits here. I didn't include it in the packets. I didn't receive it until earlier today, but you can just see some of the plans for the building that was submitted. So this view right here up on the screen is the front view, so you can see 2 car garages for each of the 2 units. Let's see, and this one here is more of a floor plan. 2 bedrooms, 2 baths for each unit, I believe. Let's see here, and then this one here is the actual site plan. So I'll make it bigger so we can all see it. Yep, so the property line running right down the middle, 2 lots, 1 on each side. You can see all the different setbacks, all of which are conforming to what our code of ordinances specifies. So no issues there with that one. Let's see. And then I did also receive a draft form of the deed and covenant restrictions as well. So those have been prepared by the applicant's legal counsel. So those would be ready to be recorded as a condition of approval of this CUP here. Let's see. So back to the map here. We heard from a few of the other residents in the area about the status of the street, which is 3rd Avenue Northeast. As you can see here, it is quite a bit narrower than elsewhere that you might see in the city of Casson. In fact, the right-of-way is, I believe it's 33 feet, which is about half of what you would see. Normally you would see a 66-foot right-of-way on a standard street that gets built today in Casson. So the street is very, very narrow, you can see. And over time, it's become in need of some improvements, I would say. So those, I would say, I do want to kind of separate that as a bit of a legacy condition that's been ongoing for quite some time. even with the existing structures there. So if any improvements to the road would come in the future, I would say, we talked about this at staff level, but anyone who owns property on that street could petition the city to have it improved in the future. So that's really the option that we've come up with for that. Let's see there. Let's see, anything else?
I don't think so. We'll see what questions we have.
Any questions from the board, or else we can open up the public hearing?
Any questions, gentlemen?
No. It's pretty straightforward on the map.
No? With that said, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. If anyone has anything they'd like to share on the conditional use permit for the Buckingham Twin Home, if they'd be kind enough to come up to the podium, and if you would, start with your name and address, please.
Ryan Wegner, 307 First Street Northeast. Some of my concerns are the water control back there. We have no curb or gutter to control the water. We do have one small storm drain located on the Kredemacher property. I'm pretty sure it's in the right-of-way, but it has a 4-inch line. It would be located just here, right there. There's a 4-inch line that runs along the street, comes up to First Street Northeast, backs up all the time. Could have a foot and a half of standing water. There is residents back there that get tons of standing water on their property. I don't want somebody to be able to develop there, and then, like you guys said, later down the road, people petition, and us residents get annexed for it and have to pay for it. Yes, 3rd Avenue is a 13-foot wide street. I don't know if that brings problems with emergency vehicles ever having to access that street, fire trucks. I believe most streets are at 28 to 36 feet, which allow for proper traffic and maybe parking on one side, if not both sides. 3rd Avenue hasn't had any maintenance done to it for the 13 years I've lived there. The road can't handle any more traffic than it already has on it right now without it coming apart. The city can't even bring a normal plow down that street, so that street gets plowed a day after it snows by a skid loader. And would you guys want this in your backyard? Would you want people driving on your property if they had to pass another vehicle? Thank you for my concerns.
Thank you.
Hello, Judy Thompson, 208 3rd Street Northeast. Mr. Buckingham's property is in our backyard, basically. Just a little history, since I don't believe any of you maybe know about why it's a single-lane road there. Now, some of you may. It's our understanding when Mr. Buckingham petitioned many years ago to get another property built in there, okay, and it was turned down. But the city annexed the other half, which would be the east half of that road, to the Blaine subdivision, so they could get the subdivision built and have the streets and all that stuff proper. So that's what created the alley. And at the meeting 30 years ago, John, it's been a long time, they dubbed it to be an alley. So they never came back and put in curb and gutter because of that, okay? They said it didn't need, setbacks would be different on the alley than what a normal street would be. So, that's a little history on it. They did come through originally, they graded it once, and there must have been tarring going on somewhere in the city, and they came to put one coat of tar on it. And like you said, it has not been maintained for many years. So, okay. Yes, there could be water issues. Hopefully that will be taken care of. And I know a couple of the neighbors were concerned about where the sewer hookup will end up going. There's no sewer services on 3rd Street, the main street that I live on. We are hooked into 2nd Avenue to the west for our sewer. We have a 200-plus foot line, okay, which the same on his property is the same. It goes to the west, Do you want me to point it out to you? That'd be better. Anyway, so because of, where the city sewer hookups came in at the time. So, does that make sense? Yes, no?
Yep.
Okay, we're good? Okay, just thought I'd give you a little history on that, okay?
My name is Kay Lance, and I live at 305 3rd Street Northeast, so the alley is right across the street from my driveway. My concern is cars coming up and down that alley, and I know Judy can say too, when they turn onto that alley, they run over the curb because the road is not wide enough to get a car through. The cars that come out, I don't know, it's just very noisy with cars going in and out of that bump. Even to pull onto 3rd Street with 3rd Street being there and the bus service and stuff, I just feel if there's any kids on that alley there, it's for them to go to the bus or anything, there's just not enough room. No one can park in that alley. There's no room. And just even with going down that alley, with it not being wide enough, you go down the middle of the road, if there's kids and stuff, it's very dangerous for them to be there because there's not enough room for cars.
Good evening. Becky Angel, 207 3rd Street Northeast. So I live across from Kay, just straight across from the alley. Been there for 20 years, been blessed with wonderful neighbors. We work well together. I do commend you for wanting to improve your property on there. Absolutely, it needs to be done. But as it was mentioned in the council meeting last month, this is an antiquated and historic area of town, which has some infrastructure issues, one being the street, and I can also vouch the septic sewer is an issue as well. My home is also connected to 2nd Street Northeast, to the antiquated line. And I can look back at my neighbors, and all but one here, I can attest in that 20 years, has had sewer backup and water damage. And so you're going from a single-family home to a twin home, you're going to have more housing, more water, and 4 bathrooms instead of 1 or 2 that's there currently. So I just ask you to please consider if this is the right fit for the historic infrastructure that we are set with right now. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Thank you all. Has the city engineer looked at this at all and made any comment on water and sewer and the ability for what we currently have over there infrastructure-wise to support a twin home?
Yes, I mean, we reviewed the street condition. I mean, you're going from 1 residence to 2. Okay. I don't think that the capacity would be an issue. As Ian mentioned earlier, I think this is an area that certainly could be improved by the city council. If residents petition to have it improved, it would be an area of roadway that could be rebuilt. Okay. And at that time, I think that, extensions of utilities closer to these properties would be done. But currently they're served, so I don't think that the capacity necessarily is a concern. Gotcha. So I think that the drainage is something that would be something Mr. Buckingham would have to take a look at if they were doing construction. We required that on a lot of other improvements. The drainage would be something that would have to be reviewed because there would be a larger impervious footprint from what there is right now. Sure.
In regards to the sewer hookup that's existing would just be used for both at the same time, most likely?
I don't know if that's been, we don't have construction plans. I don't know that we're necessarily looking at that tonight, so I don't know what the construction plans would be. So I don't know if, John, if you've got an idea of what you're thinking with that?
I can't hear anything you're saying.
Okay.
The question was related to the sewer hookup. Are you planning on installing new sewer hookups, or what are you thinking there?
Let's try this. I've got ear infection and I can't hear much of anything. So for that I apologize. I did not hear the input that the neighbors have. All my goal is to improve the neighborhood. and to make housing so they can walk up to the grocery store, walk to the post office, walk up to the fireman's ball, and all that stuff. So, that's my goal, is to improve the neighborhood.
So, have you had any review of the sewer that's currently serving the property? Have you had any review of the sewer that's currently serving the property? Is the existing sewer going to be adequate for 2 units instead of the 1? The sewer system?
I'm doing 2 units on there.
Right. Is the existing sewer service going to work for 2 units?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no plans to change it? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions that I can't?
Anything else, guys? I don't think so, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't disagree that some upgrades probably need to be done on this end of town, but I don't know if that's the cog we fit, or the piece we're asking to look at and review tonight. And I don't know if a single unit actually exasperates anything worse than they already are. But if somebody would like to argue with me, I would encourage you to do so.
Until those design, the construction plans, until they're seen, can you really make a valid answer?
Probably not.
Well, I mean, I think what you could, what we do is we would condition approvals on, construction plans that we would review at a staff level.
Yeah.
And that's how we would typically do it with a larger plat. But, I mean, there's a difference between the construction plans and the zoning aspect of it. I mean, I think it's interesting, if you look just to the west of this, you can see that, next to it there are 2 lots. So, I mean, if it had been subdivided in 2 lots already, and you were building 2 single-family homes, we wouldn't be having a hearing. I mean, so, it's because it's a townhome, but if it was just 2 residences, they would have just been built on. So, I mean, to a certain extent, that's kind of how I view it, I guess.
Anything else?
I guess I'd put a priority on the grading. That's always a part to any of the neighbors, and, I mean, you are adding a lot more impervious product, and I know it probably needs some work down there, but, I mean, that work's not free to fix any of that either for the residents.
I mean, like I said, I'm certainly open to looking at it as a construction project for the street. If that's something the neighborhood really feels is before this process, I hadn't received a complaint from the neighborhood regarding it. So it clearly needs some reconstruction, and I think that's something we could add to our reconstruction schedule. At least a mill and overlay certainly would be something looked at, and possibly to extend utilities there. It is a historic plat, but, I mean, I think we're open to that at the city. It's just a matter of, we don't necessarily always know about problems until they're brought to our attention, so. But I think that is a separate issue from the actual CUP process we're looking at tonight.
Any other questions or comments?
All right, well, I can just wrap it back up to the staff report. So in the staff report, you'll notice 3 conditions of approval that were recommended. One is in line with the minor subdivision that we had talked about last month. It's that the existing structures have to get demolished before it gets recorded. The other 2, as far as the site plan and the covenant and deed restrictions, those were just supplied to me today. So, I mean, the applicant has supplied them. They just have to be, recorded with the CUP. So that's been covered, really. Based on the comments that we've received tonight and this discussion that we've had with the Planning Commission, we could additionally have a condition of supplying a grading and drainage plan. I think that would be appropriate.
I think that would be prudent, Ian, to add that as a 4th condition.
Yeah. And then, of course, the city engineer would review those plans as they are submitted. So, that's kind of what I'm gathering based on the conversations tonight.
I would like to see that condition, so I'll just be point blank about it. If there's nothing else, I guess I would look for a recommendation, please.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve with the additional condition for a grading and drainage plan.
Recommendation to approve, do we have a second?
Second.
Recommendation and a second, all in favor and say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That would be our recommendation to the city council.
Thank you.
Next up, Quimby conditional use permit for a sign.
All right, I'll just segue over here to the other side of Highway 14. So this right here is the Quimby's property here, previously the Stevenson's collision place. So up for discussion tonight right now is a conditional use permit for an electronic sign. So those of you who have been planning commission members longer than others may remember that a conditional use permit is required for electronic signs whenever they're placed within a commercial or industrial district. And so really it is a pretty commonplace thing. The conditional use permits, basically it gives the city an opportunity to review the sign a little bit further and take into consideration, just the size of it, if there's any residential areas nearby that need to be taken into consideration, things like that. So elsewhere in town, mostly along Highway 57, you'll see things like restrictions on when the sign can be turned off, like can the sign stay on until 11 p.m. that has to be turned off, or things like that. Or others along Highway 14, like the electronic sign at Sakers, for example, they also have a conditional use permit. Theirs doesn't have any conditions at all, though. So I can just bring up here on the screen the plans that were submitted for Quimby's Collision Center. You can see this is just a mock-up of what their sign would look like. I believe it's a 6 by 12 foot sign, the electronic piece. Let's see here. Yep, 6 by 12. And then, how tall is the pole? 10 feet, I think. Yes, 10 feet. So altogether, it's 16 feet in height. There. And then I'll go back to the one other page so we can see the position of where it would be located on the lot. So you can see kind of close to their parking area over there, but 8 feet away from that property line. So just to get a sense of where the position is proposed to be located, you can get a good idea of it there. But staff reviewed this application as we do with the other ones. We really didn't see any issues with it whatsoever, and so we're recommending no conditions with this one, just to match the Sakers sign, which is the next closest electronic sign that we have on file here with the city. So if there's any questions from the board?
Any questions?
Ian, as a comparative, what's the size of the Saker sign?
I'm not sure. Let's see if I can find out here. Give me a moment, but if there's other questions, let's see. No other questions from the board? Or if that's the question. We can open up the public hearing, and then I can see if I can find the answer to that question in the meantime, all right?
Okay. Go ahead and do your thing.
Yep.
Is that the only questions at this stage in the game?
Yeah, does MnDOT have any bearing or concern, being that's adjacent to 14?
Adjacent, yes, but it's not like in their right-of-way or anything like that. Let's see. So not to my knowledge.
Not that I know of. I mean, if it was gonna be in the right of way, then they would have control over it, but.
Sure.
If nothing else, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for the Quimby conditional use permit for a sign. Once again, if anybody has anything they'd like to share, if they'd be kind enough to come up to the podium, please. If not, I will close the public hearing. The only condition I can ever really recall putting on these signs is if they're across the street from or neighboring to residential property, and I guess I don't see that being an issue at this particular case. So if Sakers has got their sign without any conditions on it, I guess I would be hard pressed to throw any at this unless somebody else sees something.
I agree.
Yeah, the only one we had is that the only one we've done since I've been here has been the bank, and that was one where we said they had to shut it off at 11, and
I think we did something with like Subway.
Yeah.
The movie theater was another example.
The movie theater was one. The Burger King one was a bit of a
That was an interesting
conversation, given how tall it was.
in a residential area, so I don't really foresee a lot of issues.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what conditions to put on it, to be quite honest with you.
I think in the staff report, Ian's not recommending any conditions at this time.
No. Getting close, Ian, you want me to stop?
Almost there, sorry. Let's see. Well, it wasn't listed in their CUP from Sakers. Let's see. Can check something else.
I mean, if we're not able to locate it this time, we can certainly let you know.
Yeah.
If you can go out there with a tape measure and...
Yeah, send me out there with a very tall ladder and I can figure it out.
If you can't find it, that's fine.
Are you saying road trip right now, or?
I mean, it's...
Have the meeting over there, yes.
Yeah, you saw the mock-ups.
Yeah.
It's like...
It could be an interesting one.
outrageously out of proportion.
I think it was just sort of like a comparative, just so,
Right.
since it's already
Yep.
there.
Bring it up on Street View and Google Maps, you can see Sakers.
Oh, yes, that's a good idea.
I'm assuming it's roughly about the same size, if not
I would
smaller.
be inclined to agree with you, to be honest with you.
Google Maps. Yep.
Just type in maps, or, yeah, there you go.
I don't have a keyboard here. Oh boy.
Grab the little guy and drop him on there.
Yep.
There you go.
Let's see. Okay, well.
Yeah, you got it right there, but it's just the angle's off just a little bit. There you go.
Oh boy, that's too much. Ah, yes, okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't foresee a lot of impact to anyone from that.
We didn't put any conditions on it, and the hotel's across the parking lot, so.
That one may even be bigger. It's just eyeballing it.
Yeah, it could be even like taller for sure.
Yeah. Just comparing it to, about the size of the height of a door would be on the building, kind of projecting it that way. That's probably 8 by 12 or 14 or 16 maybe. I guess. So.
If there's nothing else, gentlemen, I would look for a motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Motion to approve?
To approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? would be our recommendation to the city council on the conditional use permit for the Quimby sign.
Thank you.
Next up, Highway 57 Business Park preliminary plat, pardon me.
Okay, so this one, I'll move over there so we can see it on the map, but it's right in front of the old Shopco building, as you may recall. Plaza 57 nowadays. Let's see. Goodness. So you can see that there's one building at the site currently, right out there in front of the old Shopco off of Highway 57, Manorville Avenue North. So basically, the applicant, Ron Carlson, wants to develop the site, put a second building there, just directly north of the site that's already there. So Mr. Carlson applied for a site plan review, which is handled administratively, just with staff and consultants. But he's also applied for a preliminary and final plat approval. Basically, that's just to change the layout of the lots. As you can see right now, there's a property line going right through the middle of this building. Generally, you don't like to see that unless it's supposed to be there, like if it's a twin home. But in this case, I think it's an older part of town, so like this piece is actually part of the original plat of Casson, so like very, very, very old situation. So basically, the preliminary plat, it moves the property line up here, and so that the property is more evenly distributed going forward once the second building appears. So let's see, this here is the preliminary plat. So you can see the two different lots right there, the property line running down the middle. Let's see here, a little bigger so we can all see the parking lot. It extends up there a ways, and I'll just show the site plan here so you can see. The orientation is different, so you can see it's upside down, more or less. But yeah, the two buildings there, making the parking lot bigger to accommodate with some landscaping additionally going throughout. And then I believe they also talked about adding a new sign for the second building. Let's see. And so with this one in my staff report, you'll notice that I had mentioned that their application is incomplete, and that has to go back to the stormwater plan. So we really didn't see an adequate stormwater plan for this one, not meeting what our code requires as far as that goes. And we'd also discovered back from 2018 there was a conditional use permit for a PUD at this site that had required underground detention for stormwater, and we didn't see that reflected in the plans that were submitted here. So still more work that has to be done before we feel comfortable recommending the Planning Commission recommend approval of it. But staff is working on it, and we're working with the engineer and the applicant to make sure that they have the information that they need in order to make their application more complete for everyone. So that's where we are.
I think we're still planning on having a public hearing.
Yeah, but we are still planning to have a public hearing.
But we wouldn't be looking for any action after the public hearing tonight.
Understood. Any questions before the public hearing, gentlemen? If not, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. If anyone has anything they would like to share about the Highway 57 Business Park preliminary plat, if they'd be kind enough to come up to the podium, please. If not, I will close out the public hearing. So all you need is a recommendation to table?
Well, yeah, I mean, recommendation, we would, at a staff level, we're recommending table, so.
Okay.
If you want to make a motion, you can, otherwise we can just lay it on the table.
I move that we table this until we get the additional details.
Second that.
Motion and a second to table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Are there any questions any of you have on it? I mean, it's relatively straightforward. I mean, he's putting another building, it's very similar to the Fernbrook one. The issue is the drainage, and, we're meeting with them on Thursday to try and work with his engineer. They had at one point, they had offered to do, I mean, back in 2018, when the first building was approved, before my time, but looking in the files, they had said they were gonna do underground drainage, and it didn't occur, so we just wanna make sure that we kind of hold their feet to the fire with this one, so that things are done properly, so.
So I think there's some changes in there, I've heard. I was around when that first building went in, and then I remember some discussion about Shopco and an easement in there with drainage. And then Shopco was sold to the key builder gentleman.
Went to the bank and then the key builders, yep.
So I think, has there been any changes on that?
Well, they did acquire a drainage easement across their little access way and out to the stormwater pond for the larger Shopco building. But we're still not confident that that plan is
There's a couple solutions they can
sufficient.
come up with to fix the drainage. We just don't have that hammered out yet, exactly what it's gonna be. I mean, you know, for example, like, one of the thoughts I had was if they bought part of that property that's, you know, going along the creek there off of 57, it's not really usable, you know, they could dig out another pond. You know, and maybe that's where they do is maybe they bring that drain, you know, maybe they drain it with a tile underneath the road or something like that, but yeah, so we have to kinda get that hammered out and see what they're gonna be doing there. But we wanna make sure, 'cause this is a wet area, and it does have, in the past, it's had issues with flooding.
Yeah, I mean, it would flood every year when it was a park, you know, even before the buildings were here. So.
One of the reasons it was a park, right?
Yeah.
You know, really, at the time, you know, I don't wanna poke that wound, right? But we haven't had a lot of issues, you know, since the bad floods in 19, so it's been good, but we wanna make sure that it's done properly. So,
Yeah,
that's
I
all
think
we've got on that one, I think, for tonight, Ian, right?
Yep. Excuse me. Last up, conditional use permit, Casa Meadows, 8th preliminary plat.
Not a conditional use permit, just a preliminary plat, it's a public hearing. But yeah, I'll move it up here. So this one you can see, it's the property here way up in far northeast Casson, right on the edge of Manorville Township, I believe. The 8th phase of the Casson Meadows subdivision area, I'll just bring it up here. Not this one. Not that one either. Okay, well, yeah, it's in here. There it is. Okay, so you can see 8 different lots proposed at the end of the proposed cul-de-sac, which is 23rd Street, 23rd Avenue Circle Northeast is what it is. 8 different lots there. You can see the different sizes, the grading. The plan for drainage for this one was already taken into account, so really no issues there with that one. Just a few comments throughout this document that the engineer had commented on, and those have been shared with the applicant so far. One thing that we did also want to specifically mention is the lot size requirements. One of them is just a little bit too small. That's this lot number 1 right here. I believe it's sized at 7,920 square feet, but the code requirements are 8,000 square feet, so just a hair too small in that one. So that's one of the conditions that we'd like to see corrected when we go into the final plat stage. But let's see here. I think if there's anything else I should mention about this. If there's any questions from the board, maybe?
Nope, I noticed lot size as well. That was the only thing on my
good.
list. Gentlemen, anything else?
No, the city engineer's comments seem to be pretty robust, so.
I will note that staff are not entirely satisfied with the lack of connectivity into the township, but that's what the property owner wants to do. So, I think it makes kind of an awkward area up there, but can't really stop him from doing what he wants with his property in this case.
Just in terms of being a cul-de-sac?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it comes to a confluence, so there's several roads in the township there. As that continues to develop, you know, I feel like there's, you know, the access there might be better if it was flowing a little bit differently, but, you know, you've got a couple of those parcels. Can you page over to that, Ian? Just show what's north there. You've got a platted road that dead ends just north of there, and another one that has it actually just dead ends. It's, you know, it's bulbed out, but I don't know how that's gonna develop, but, you know, it'll be interesting. to see how it goes. I think there'd be some value to having it run through there, just in terms of connectedness, but, you know, those areas are gonna go into probably Manorville. That's probably what's gonna end up happening at some point. So maybe it makes sense that it just dies there, I guess. I mean, it's gonna be up to the developers to the north there. So, and we can serve it with water. Manorville can do sewer, but they can't do water, so, you know, it's an odd area. If it does come into the city limits there for Manorville, then we may look at some options for providing water service to them. So we'll have to see how it goes. But I think it'd be better if it came through. I always like to see those connections, but it is what it is.
Anything else? No? If not, this is also a public hearing. If anybody has anything they'd like to share on the preliminary plat for the Castle Meadows 8.
Randy Fairstead, 717 23rd Street Northeast. My property is right in front of the retention pond that you might be able to see. I believe it's, I think it's right there. That's the retention.
Yeah,
Are you gonna tie in more drainage to that retention pond? Is that their plan?
Yeah, so that retention pond was sized with this 8th subdivision
Okay.
in mind.
It hasn't had a problem, you know, since. I mean, it does get up fairly high, but the outlet going to the north has been, you know, adequate and working.
Oh, good.
I agree. I didn't know if you, I would like to see the road go through, but, that's not gonna happen, by the looks of it. But as long as the retention pond has been adequately built, that was my concern. So,
there are some things in the right-of-way there that are in the retention pond area, so I think that's something we'll have to review. I know some folks have put some of their items into the property that's not necessarily theirs. So we'll make sure that...
My garden.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the garden. We just want to make sure there's nothing that would interfere with the
Shutter
water
two,
thing.
those 2 trees I didn't plant, they're coming out.
Okay.
So,
But that's a good point. Drainage is the biggest thing with anything in this area, so.
Of course.
so. But that's all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tyler Mandler with WSC Massey, 1765 Restoration Road, Rochester. The engineer on the project, I was just going to say that the conditions that we received and the review from Brandon were all agreeable, so we're working on implementing those conditions, and we kindly appreciate your consideration. And then, yeah, just to address the pond, I just wanted to comment that we made a modification, I think, with Castle Meadows 7, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and that was with the intention of making sure that emergency overflow was adequately lowered, so that was done with the previous phase, so there is an emergency relief before it gets to any of the elevations of the adjacent houses.
Thank you.
If that is everything, we'll close the public hearing. So I don't have any more questions unless anybody else does. Would look for a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the preliminary plat.
Got a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Your recommendation there.
All right, thank you.
Anything else anybody would like to discuss? No? Go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming.